Looks like you're live.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We're going to call the Budget Committee to order. And I believe all the committee members are present except Mr. Friedman. May I have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous held meeting?
So moved.
Motion to, okay, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are approved. We have two items before us today. The first one is ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into an agreement or agreements with Miller's Print and Mail to provide services with respect to printing and mailing of utility bills for the City of Akron Utility Business Office for the remainder of 2021 and declaring an emergency. Is there anyone here to speak to this?
Yes, I will be speaking to this.
Okay.
So we have been utilizing Miller Print and Sort for quite some time to do our printing of our utility bills. We are going to be taking this out for RFP. We had intended to do that at the beginning of this year, but the utility billing office has moved. They moved in December along with the pandemic, and administering the Akron Cares program, as well as dealing with the meter project. We did not get that out timely. So we are asking council's permission to continue with Miller's through the end of the year. Our goal is to put out the RFP to interested print companies to see if we can get some sort of competitive bid for continued printing in August. So we are going to be competitively bidding this in August, but want to continue with Miller's through the end of the year for continued service for our residents and need council approval to do so.
Okay. I'm looking at the ordinance. How much are we talking about remaining on this? What's the project? Oh, $80,000.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see it now. Okay. Are there questions from the committee members? Sarah, I can't see any hands. If you see any.
Sure. Councilman Malik has his hand raised. And also for the record, Councilman Freeman is here. He's just not chairing today.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Freeman. I wasn't sure. Go ahead, Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Ms. Goodrich. I appreciate you bringing us this and, recognize the reason behind waiting till next year. I know, we've had obviously discussions about kind of not bidding certain things and, working through the processes within purchasing about, how that happens. What's the status kind of on the broader question of kind of a comprehensive policy that will deal with when we do or don't bid things?
So this was, this was something that was historically not bid. This is something that should have been bid. This is something that, that we should be bidding. And so that's why we are putting it out for competitive bid. However, we have to develop specifications because it's been many, many years since we have bid this. So I'm working very closely with the utility billing department to develop the specifications to make sure that when we are going out for bid, that we're getting vendors and we're putting together specifications that we're getting the vendors that are going to perform and, and that the specifications are detailed enough for them to perform to the level of performance that we're going to expect throughout the length of the contract. I can report that we do have a new purchasing agent that's going to be starting on June 28th. So I'm looking forward to that. I know Sean Bowman is, and he's going to be starting, he's coming from the private sector. And with that, there's going to be someone that's going to be much more dedicated to being able to research and start developing those policies that we've so been striving towards. A large part of his job in consultation with myself and Sean is going to be developing that policy. Sean and I just don't have the bandwidth to do so. We've been trying, but we just don't have the bandwidth to do so. So that is something that we're going to be working on. This was something I'd intended to bid, at the beginning of this year. And unfortunately, because of these other projects in the utility billing department, we just didn't get it done. I have to be honest with you. So I'm asking, for permission to continue with the status quo from city council, with the expectation that we will be taking it out for competitive bid, in August. And then whoever wins that bid will be starting, with the city on January 1 of 2022.
Thank you so much for the information, and glad to hear the news about the purchasing agent. I'm sure that'll be welcome all around, and definitely look forward to the continued work on the policy. So thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Sarah, are there any other hands up?
Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
I'd just like to make a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? We will put this out tonight and recommend suspension of the rules with a favorable report. The next item we have just a moment. This is a resolution expressing support for Senator Vernon Seitz and the members of the Democratic caucus in their decision to vote against House Bill 110, the state operating budget, and declaring an emergency. Since I am the offerer of this resolution, I became aware this weekend of the bravery of Senator Seitz and the Democrats, who felt that the budget was so out of line that they could not support it. There are a number of things in the budget that are good, but there's some things that are just awful. Tax cuts for increase in tax cuts. And I've asked Mr. Fricker if he could. I left him a message. I'm not sure if he's prepared or not. But we've been talking for some time now about the impact of the pandemic on cities around the state for those who have allowed their workers to work from home, and how that could potentially impact our revenue stream. And I don't know, Mr. Fricker, have you had time to look at that, the possibility if this is passed? I think if it hasn't passed yet, it's going to conference. But the Democrats felt that it was so harmful to major cities and to so many things that we need to be concerned about, like food stamps for individuals. There are a number of issues with this budget that I felt if we could offer support to strengthen their position. Mr. Fricker, do you have info?
Right. So I know that it's been well documented that, one of the big impacts to cities from the pandemic would be, the impact on municipal taxation if they, the employers were required to withhold for the employees at their place of work, even during the pandemic. And there's talk about potentially letting the employees file for refunds and then potentially back even into 2020. So there's been a number of estimates. I've seen some as high as, for just the largest 6 cities in Ohio, over $300 million annual impact. So for Akron, that would potentially be, 12 to 13% of our general fund budget. So, a pretty big impact. And it's not really just even the big cities, even the smaller cities, especially those that have large employers that make up, a large percentage of their income tax base, where they may have one large employer that makes up, 20 or 30% of their income tax base. They would be devastated by some of these changes. So, Akron and the other cities have really fought hard to push back against these changes to municipal taxation.
Right, thank you. And the school funding has continually been a problem in terms of addressing it. We know that Daroff was voted 3 or 4 times, if not 6, that schools were not properly funded. And this bill doesn't help that at all. So with those concerns, are there questions from other council members?
Madam Chair, I can see that Councilman Malik and Councilman Fusco and Councilman Lombardo have their hands raised.
Okay, will you identify those in that order, please?
Councilman Malik?
Councilman.
Thank
Malik.
you. Yeah, I just wanted to note that, to Councilwoman Mobian's point, there are a variety of really troubling things that have been included in the budget without any hearings, without anything, just included at the last minute. Just over the weekend, some of our Summit County officials pointed out that language has been included anonymously that would basically put municipal broadband systems out of business. That includes Fairlawn Gig that we've been talking about expanding. And that's, pretty, that's just, it makes no sense, right? And it's such a biased thing, particularly against cities that are really struggling during the pandemic. There's a proposal to change the way that affordable housing is taxed, which would really harm our ability to build affordable housing, which is incredible given that we are having an affordable housing crisis in the city of Akron and other big cities. I think the third and perhaps the worst thing is changing the way that SNAP benefits work so that the value of your car is included in that. So, I saw someone on Twitter mentioned, I can't believe that someone came out of this last year thinking that we need to make it harder for folks to have food stamps. But those are the proposals that have gone in silently without hearing in our state house. They're anti-city proposals, and that's what we get from Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Malley. Who's next, Sarah?
I can see that Councilman Lombardo has his hand raised and also Councilman Fusco.
Okay, in that order, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree that there are certain things in the state budget that aren't good, but I was just wondering, with this piece of legislation, is it just possible to break those things down that, you or we're not in agreement, instead of, taking a look at the whole budget and saying that we disagree? Thank you.
And we can add those things that were just mentioned. Mr. Fusco?
Thank you. I would just as Mr. Lombardo had said, exercise some caution, I guess. I certainly appreciate the vote Mr. Sykes had made on this particular one, and given the fact how egregious this is in terms of cities and what the impact on cities that this potentially would have across the board. I stand with Mayor Roth and with obviously Eileen Shapiro and their comments in terms of the broadband piece. Obviously, we don't want to see the most affluent of Ohio's residents getting a tax break, obviously, and as well as the affordable tax, if you will, affordable housing tax. But again, there is noted by the sponsor, Ms. Mobian, thank you for stating that there is going to be there is things in there that we do rely on, such as the funding for our roadways, for our utilities, and so on and so forth. And I would absolutely support doing something in reference to, calling each individual item out that basically attacks municipalities across the state of Ohio. Absolutely would support that. And I think that would be a better tact as opposed to saying the whole budget itself. So I would just submit that that would be perhaps maybe just another route that we could take and maybe prudent. Thank you.
Okay, we can certainly amend. Are there other questions or comments?
Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Mallett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess just in light of the two preceding comments, perhaps it would be prudent, we could potentially take a week's time and, work on adding some of those specific points that Mr. Fusco mentioned, into the language. Would that be agreeable?
That would be fine with me. And I will make sure we get that information in. Thank you. So are there other questions or comments from committee members or council members on the virtual site? Sarah, do you see any other hands?
I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Okay. May I have a motion for us to take time, please?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take time. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, we take time. Is there anything else? I don't think we had any previous items on the agenda, did we, Sarah?
No.
Okay. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
That's
you
the
very
final
much.
committee meeting for today. Council will meet at 7 p.m. Thank you.